Okay, hi, and welcome to another edition of the JoyceStream Artist Chats. Thank you for joining us this week as we celebrate the art form of flamenco. And today we are joined by the artistic director, Carlota Santana of Flamenco Vivo, Carlota Santana. Welcome, Carlota. Thanks for
Thank you. Thank you,
participating
Aaron.
in this. So we are screening about a 45-minute film of a performance that the company made at Le Poisson Rouge called Tableau. And I wonder if you could tell us a bit about the history of both your decision to want to do a show like this at LPR and also like what Tableau is and what the kind of goal of this particular show is and how it differed from any of the more recent performances that you all have done.
Okay, tableau basically means floor or certain space. And tableau, our tableau, has taken from the old days when flamenco really began in the southern part of Spain in, let's say, the 1850s. They had things that were called café cantantes, singing cafes or singing tablaos, where the singing was much more prominent. But what you had was a small, intimate space. People would come and drink and eat and listen to the show at the same time. What's really good about this kind of thing is that the audience is very close to the artist. So they can actually feel what's going on much better than you can in a larger theater. It's very much of an audience artist give and take.
Mm-hmm.
The artist is moving and doing, and in flamenco you'll dance and do a certain kind of stop, and in that stop the audience applauds, and that applauds and those feelings from the audience really get into the artist because they're so close, and that kind of builds the artist to even do better and to give out more. So it's really a tradition, very much of a traditional setting.
Mm-hmm. And what was your desire? I know that the company has been in proscenium spaces like the Joyce, like the Bam Fisher for many years. What made you think of putting the show in a more intimate setting?
A couple of things. First of all, we wanted our audience to appreciate flamenco a little bit more, and we also wanted to be able to do something that was a little bit more informal. When we rehearse for a tableau show, it's not the intensivity that it is rehearsing like going into the Joyce to do a program like Lotito or a whole evening show.
Yeah.
So it's much more relaxed in a sense for the artist. Everybody does a solo. We do one or two group works. Everybody kind of knows their place, and they know their routine, and they know their dances, and you just go out and do it. You don't have to worry about the lighting, and you don't have to worry about if we have to stop at 45 minutes because the show's going to close or the curtain's going to close. Much more of a relaxed rehearsal process, not performance process, and maybe performance too, but rehearsal process.
Uh-huh. It feels like getting to see like theater stars at Joe's Pub or something. It has this feeling of just like cabaret. And I love that you're recontextualizing the form into space where we're eating and drinking, we're experiencing the form kind of in its essential frame again.
And
Yeah.
in its historic frame, in a sense.
Yes.
But before everybody started doing this in theaters and in big bull rings and stuff like that, it happened in these small spaces, in these small tableau spaces.
Yeah, and you really feel that also in the video. I think you see the audience's heads like at the performer's feet, and this sort of like audience shot. It's just like they're there in every sense, and it really makes it. I was kind of like clapping and vocalizing as I was watching the video because it feels like you're really like I'm just sitting at a table. It's a really nice like, I guess as we move into this world right now where all we do is experience things in 2D on screens, it was a very welcome video experience, because I felt definitely that sense of intimacy and like direct audience to artist response.
Correct. And you can see the audience, they pan the audience and you can see them smiling and laughing and looking and applauding. It's like you're there with them.
Yeah.
You really feel like you're there with them. Yeah. Instead of that just virtual one-to-one or one to the screen or something. Yeah.
Right. So will you tell us a little bit about just that, the moments, these like long solos. So like we start with a group work or not a group work, but like a group setting in which each of them are kind of introducing themselves to the audience through their solos. And then there are these major extended solos of both male and female dancers. And I just want to know more about just the structure and form of those solos, like how I'm just going to use the words that I know, and I'm not sure that they are specific to the flamenco form, but like, is how much of that is improvised, or how much of that is kind of like jazz, like that they're riffing, and that there's scat, that there's other things, and the ways that we don't understand, or I don't understand as an audience, how the musician and dancer are so specifically in dialogue, and like it seems like it's this constant conversation and call and response, but I'm also aware that like nothing is happening by accident. So I don't want to take away anybody's artistry by saying it's improvised, because clearly it's so experience, like there's so much experience. But can you tell me more about just like that interplay and how that plays out and rehearses? And
Yeah, for sure. What I'm smiling at, Aaron, is like, I don't have to explain this because you just explained everything you thought and everything you felt. So you explained it very well. So yes, it's all rehearsed. Most of it's rehearsed. At this point, if I look at it, I can't tell when the artist is going into improv. They might go into a little bit improv, but it is rehearsed. So there are certain palos, and a palo is a form, means a form in flamenco. And there's a soleares, and there's an alegrias, and there's a seguirilla, and there's other forms. Let's say those are the three that you're going to see tonight on the video. Each palo, each form has a certain structure to it. So there's the singing that starts it, that introduces the dance. Dancer comes out usually walking very tall. The two women walking very tall in this performance. The men come out a little bit faster. There's something called the llamada, which is a call from the dancer to the musicians to say, okay, I'm ready to really dance now. And then there's the poetry of the song that goes on for a certain number of measures. And then Emilio, you can see using his castanets.
Yeah.
In that. After that, there's, again, the structure. So there's the song, then there's the footwork, then there's just what we call marcaje, which is the dancers moving. So everybody knows that structure. Mm-hmm. In rehearsal, they refine the structure because the guitarist too wants to play a certain kind of melody when the dancer is doing a certain thing with their feet. Most people find it fascinating that the guitarist and the singer spend an hour in a performance. They have no sheet music. They have nothing in front of them that says this is what's going to happen. They have everything in their brain. Yeah. The guitarist just has everything in his brain. He knows the dance, and he just follows the dancer. Next question, Aaron. I think
yeah. So that next question, it leads me into the music and the musicians that you have. Did they one, I mean, just incredible, and I want to just thank both the musicians and dancers in this video for the work that they do. But the musicians, do they work together as a fully formed band, or do you hire each one of them, or you hire the guitarist and then he says, these are the people that I want to work with? Like, how is that relationship cultivated? Because those are
Well,
such,
for the most part, I have been using the same guitarists and singers for a number of years. You hire a guitarist, then you hire a singer, and you just know, because the flamenco community is very small, that they get along and they like to work together.
Yeah.
You don't say to the guitarist, who do you want to work with? I have used different guitarists over the years. Somebody will stay for 5 years, and then we'll look for somebody new just to kind of refresh the company and maybe have a new feeling, a new thought, a new sound. But the artistic director hires the people one by one.
Yeah. Okay. And so you referenced the castanets, and that was something that I also wanted to ask you in a broader sense, just like all of the training and techniques that are on display in a 45-minute video, or frankly, just like a 10-minute solo. It just feels like the range of technical ability is pretty broad. What kinds of essential training do flamenco dancers have to undergo? And you're providing this at the Flamenco Center, yes?
Yes, not as intense or not as what's needed as you do in Spain.
Right.
I mean, the Spain Conservatory, you start really young and you take castanet classes and turn classes and flamenco classes and Spanish classical dance classes and folkloric classes. You take all of those things. In the old days, flamenco dancers used to just study flamenco. Nowadays, they study everything, the whole gamut of dance, whatever it might be.
Yeah.
And then some people will concentrate personally on what they like. So Emilio is excellent with his castanets. He's concentrated on that. And that's what he loves to do. I don't know if any other artist in my company would choose to do that. Each one kind of chooses something that really makes them feel the best that they feel, or something that they really want to project. In the program, Le Poisson Rouge, both my women, Fanny and Lucia Pinuna, both do soleares, which is a very serious dance.
Yep.
They're very different. It's the same palo, it's the same dance, but the two women are very different in the way they interpret it. Isaac does an alegrias, which is happy, supposedly traditional dance. And then Emilio does his seguirilla with castanets, which is a serious dance. I'm not sure if I answered your question.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's just, I guess I want to, for any folks who are watching who are kind of part of the uninitiated, like half of me, I think it's just, it's important for me to just call out these kind of moments of specific artistry to make sure that people are kind of like, that's not an accident that he's playing the castanets. I've tried to play the castanets and they are incredibly, incredibly difficult. And I just acknowledge that it's not simply a percussive form because of the footwork. It is so incredible in the hands, the work of the hands also. And is there something, like you were saying, that's kind of just like the dancers moving, that part of it, but what is the training around the use of the hands?
I don't know how much I can show you here, but you spend hours in isolating from the wrist on down, so that this moves, I don't know, and so the wrist moves and the finger moves and the arm doesn't move. And you do that in this position, and you do it over your head and out to the side and behind you. The same thing with the castanets. I mean, you're doing turns and doing this and doing turns at the same time. Yeah. Very complicated.
Yeah. It makes me think, in both like the positions that you're showing and also the handwork, the ways that like the classical ballet port de bras and also classical Indian dance are these like kind of deriving from similar places of the body, like formations of the body, but then also the isolation of like the wrist on down, I feel like is also present in other forms, which is so thrilling to think about the like the history of development across
the dance world. Yeah, the port de bras is the same. We, you know, everybody does first, fifth position, etc.
Right.
But then you start adding the hand in that kind of position and the other movements of the arms.
Yeah. So I wanted to ask a little bit more because the video will expire at a certain point, and part of our desire to have these sort of virtual platforms and seasons is to replace the things that we could not see in our theater. And so I want to acknowledge that Flamenco Vivo was to appear at the Joyce last week with a brand new evening length production called Lotito. And I wonder if you could tell us a bit more about Jose, the choreographer for that piece, and how you, one, how you met him, and also how you've cultivated this relationship with him through the center that you also have, because I think it's really important to also talk about the investment that you're making in the community, providing a percussive center in Midtown, and the ways that Jose has kind of interacted with several different of those programs.
I got to know Jose because my company gives a prize to the winner of the competition in Madrid every year. Madrid has a competition for choreography, and we give a prize to the person that we like the best and invite that person to come to New York City to set something on the company and to give general classes. Mm-hmm. So Jose won that prize from us in, I don't know, 3 years ago. I'd have to look that up.
Yeah.
And he came and he said something for the company that was based on how people in Seville, the gypsy population, how they used to interact with each other when they all lived in the same place. And he did this choreography that we all fell in love with. It was a group choreography. There were lots of different parts to it. He had dancers going around in circles, which you don't usually see flamencos doing circle work. Mm-hmm. There was certain singing in it. The company fell in love with this choreography. So that was our start. The year after that, since we fell in love with him, we brought him back to do something that turned out a little bit modern. Jose is an incredible artist. First of all, he's an artist too. He paints.
Ah, okay.
So we brought him back, and he did something that was a little bit more contemporary. And we kept on talking with him because he has so many ideas that are traditional, somehow traditionally really based in the tradition, yet take off into modern points as well. So, and that's what we liked. That's what I liked about him. And the company felt really, really good about him. So we brought him back. We were originally going to do something about immigration and how immigration works in relation to a flamenco. And then we kept on talking and talking. And he's like, Jose can start talking and his ideas just go everywhere. And we ended up with doing something that talks about the history of Spanish dance and how it kind of evolved and has evolved through many, many years and different feelings. So it starts off with something about the flamenco shoe. So that we have dancers on stage with their shoes doing certain kinds of rhythms with their shoes in their hands. They have shoes on their feet, they have shoes in their hands also. And talking about when he got his first pair of shoes, this is what happened to him. So it has a kind of hilo. An hilo is a thread through the whole production. And it has to do with the development of a dancer. And it has to do with how one feels about their dancing. And so it also has to do with some things that are very, very masculine, some things that are very feminine, as traditionally flamenco has been. And then we've also used at the very end Spanish classical music, which has become flamencoized.
Uh-huh.
And that is also a place where each artist comes out with their own personality to a certain part of the dance. So it's a kind of a view of what Spanish dance, not just flamenco, has been over the years, people who have influenced us from generations past, and how my generation, has now influenced Jose's generation in a sense. The dancers, we've done parts of it. We took on tour last year, and the dancers are very, very into it, for lack of a better word.
Yeah.
Very responsive to the way he works and the way he works with us. So, and the musicians also. We have everything's original music. Gaspar Rodriguez, my guitarist, has created the music. Worked very closely with Jose. It's kind of amazing how nowadays, even before we had to do virtual, that the guitarist will talk to the choreographer, will do some kind of music, put it on an MP, whatever they do, send it by email to the choreographer. Choreographer listens to it, says, I like this, I don't like this. And they work back and forth and actually create that music even before we get anywhere near rehearsal.
Uh-huh.
I think I did it. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, that you did. I love that it's both a kind of a thread through Spanish dance history, but also personal for Jose and his own kind of story quietly underneath that. And also that he is both a choreographer and an amazing performer. I feel like you guys showed me a clip a year ago of him dancing in this competition, and his own performance was magic. I could see why everyone felt him.
Yeah, there's something about him that his body just moves, and I once thought he's like a feather, but not in the sense of a light feather, and his emotions kind of just move him like this and that, and the things just come out of him. There are no barriers.
Mm-hmm.
There's not one barrier between him and whatever's out there. It's just out there. He's just out there. I think that's what gets to people.
Yeah. And the show is still plans to happen. It's meant to premiere now next year, I believe, and there will be some touring in spring of 21 or
22. I think we're going to. I think we're scheduled to come back to you in 22.
Yes, but you guys will premiere it first in, I think, spring of 21 with some touring.
Right. It might not be.
Everything is. Yeah, it's also up in the air.
Yeah, it might not be a premiere. It might be a reworking of just parts of it, and we might wait to really premiere it in the Joyce.
Yeah. It's something that I say we, and then I'm like, no, it was really me. I was really so personally looking forward to this show. I feel like having just kind of watched the development and trajectory of it and being really excited to have you guys back. It was just one of those devastating things that, took that it had like that much more grain of salt on my wounds, because I felt somehow that it was something that we were all really carefully headed towards, and that was a hard one. But the company itself, are you planning a return of the tableau shows? Is that going to be something that you envision as more of an ongoing series? Oh, sorry.
Yes, absolutely. We actually were, I'm looking at my schedule up here. We were supposed to go into LPR, Le Poisson Rouge, again in October.
Okay.
Which is not happening, unfortunately. So we have it dated for March.
Uh-huh.
Hopefully by March, everything will calm down and we can do it.
Yeah. It's, I mean, the world has become so hard to calendar.
Right.
just as a person whose life is a professional calendar builder, it's an interesting moment to try to figure out how to move into the future. But how about the center itself? What are your plans for the reopening of the center, and what does the center actually provide for the community? I'd love to hear, or for our audience to hear more about what you're doing.
Excuse me, at this point we have, we have a studio, we have 2 studios that are made especially for percussive dancers. You know that we and tap dancers can't go into anything, any studios. We hurt the floors, we make too much noise, et cetera, et cetera. So we have these 2 studios at this point. We were hoping to all open, I believe, August 1st. I think that's been pushed to August 11th at this point. We have a roster of people, of flamencos who teach there, and we have a roster of tap dancers as well. There are also other percussive dancers. Some of the Mexican dance companies also come in because they also use shoes.
Yep.
Our goal is to see if we can do something bigger and greater for the percussive dance field here in New York City. So that's in the talking stages.
Yeah, so you have classes, you rent space to other artists to have access to those studios, and you also have an artist residency program.
Correct.
Yeah.
Don't know where we are with the artist residency program, again, because of the COVID.
Same with us, yeah.
We do have another program that we've been having, I think this is our 7th year, which is it's called a certamen, which is a competition, like the competition that we have in Spain that brought Jose over. But our competition is for up-and-coming dancers, to help push the art form and people who are on the cusp of maybe almost getting professional. So what we've done is taken that, and that's going online again also. And it's going to be a year-long training program that we're going to do through Zoom and talking and having mentors and having, mentors from Spain to come in and talk about history and how to put your dance together, etc. So that's something that actually is a very good thing at this point that we're going to do virtually. We would never thought about doing that. So they're going to be having meetings once a year, excuse me, once a month. They're going to be having Zoom meetings to talk about how to improve your dance, to learn a little bit more about the singing and the guitar, et cetera, et cetera. So we're excited about that.
Yep. So I think this is the last question on my list. And a kind of good culmination of all of these things, I think, which is, as the artistic director of a company and a space for training and access to space, you're in the crossroads, I think, of maintaining the standards of a historic form, but also thinking about that form's future. And I wonder if you could just say a bit about how you imagine your role as both a guardian of a form that has hundreds of years behind it, but also the ways that you are working to maintain both relevance and a kind of future, like modernizing the form, or if you want to just preserve the legacy, where do you sit on the like historic versus, I don't know, future form?
I might get myself in trouble with this question.
Okay.
My company is 37 years old, I think. So that speaks a little bit to how long I've been doing this.
Mm-hmm.
I'm very much of a traditionalist. Very much of a traditionalist. I can accept something like Jose, who has his foot in tradition and modern, and accept and accept what he does. There are some other modern flamencos that don't get to me.
Mm-hmm.
I support people who are trying to do this kind of, I don't want to destroy the art form. The art form for me is history, and I don't want to destroy that. I'm trying to think what else we've done recently. So we did the Belén Maya did a, I think that's, maybe you saw Belén Maya's Mujeres, about the history of women, about the women in the who went to the convent, et cetera, et cetera. That had a lot of modern movements in it. But that was okay because it was still hooked onto the music, to the flamenco music.
Yeah.
In the old days, you know, a flamenco dancer had to stand up really tall and use their elbow and very strong, and that was the way I was trained, and that's what I learned. Nowadays, they break the upper body, they drop their elbows, they do everything that I look at it, and sometimes it makes me cringe. But I think if they do it with the beauty and it's still hooked into the tradition, that's okay for me. Mm-hmm. We used to wear all these dresses with lots of ruffles on it. That a lot of those ruffles have gone away. Women are dancing more in pants. That's okay. I don't, when they break into the traditional music and they do something else with the music, that's what kind of bothers me.
Yeah. Oh, I think that feels really important, to maintain the essences of the form and how it is responsive and reliant on the musical and the dialogue between music and dancer choreographer. Yeah, and I apologize if that feels like a trick question. It's more,
no, not at all.
Yeah, I think it's really important, as we look at each different art form, how it is, how it is interested in evolution in some parts of it, but also that there are many ways that we simply preserve and encourage the innovation within tradition. And it sounds like that's exactly where you are.
In the flamenco field itself, you talk to 10 artists in Spain or the United States or whatever, the same argument is going on.
Yeah.
Pulling for tradition, pulling for modernization. I imagine that's probably happening in all fields.
Yes.
All dance fields.
Yeah. And to that, I congratulate you on 37 years. That is no small feat. That I can't, as I turned 40 myself, I can't wait for you to turn 40. For the company, that seems like an incredible point on the horizon for you all. That's really exciting. And I just acknowledge the value of maintaining and upholding tradition. That's a really important place that you have and continue to occupy. So thank you for what you do for the form and the field. And giving forward, commissioning new artists and seeking new talent and training people in the form. It's a whole life's work. So I just honor you, Carlota. You're
thank
special
you.
part of the field. Yeah.
I just, you know, I love what flamenco's done for me, which has been able to give me a way to express all my feelings. And that's what I like to take to people. You know, watch this, look at this, see how you feel, get your feelings out. So it's done that for me. And I just like to share that really with other people.
Yeah. Well, thank you. I think that's a wonderful place for us to wrap up. I can't wait to have the company back at the Joyce. I'm so sorry that we didn't get to
be there
yet, but we have our plans. And yeah, just thank you for joining us. Thanks for letting us
be
part of your company.
I hope everybody loves to watch the video of the tableau performance, and you can see the audience smiling and laughing. Get your glass of wine out.
Yes, that's right.
Relax and sit there, and you can yell some olays too to to the video camera, that's fine. To the
I
video.
did. My partner thought I was crazy. He walked in this morning at breakfast. I was sipping coffee and I was like, oh, there was some really good, it was delightful.
Great.
So yes,
Great.
encourage beverage of choice and participate.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, thank you for bringing
Thank you
tableau
very
to us.
much.
And we look forward to seeing more from you very soon.
Thank you, Aaron.
Take
Ciao.
care. Be well.
Bye-bye.
Bye.